Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We've stepped away from the vanishing chemical secrets of Project Scalpel and into the industrial heart of a divided Europe. By 1952, the Soviet Union had turned East Germany into a fortress. But every fortress has a lifeline. For the Red Army, that lifeline was the rail network. If the agency could sever the tracks, they could paralyze a superpower. But this wasn't a job for planes. It was a job for boots on the ground and steel in the dark. This was the era of the train wreckers. This was Operation Apple. To derail the Soviet machine, the agency had to turn the very infrastructure of Germany into a trap. Operation Apple was a CIA paramilitary program conducted by the Office of Policy Coordination that trained German nationals to infiltrate the Soviet zone and sabotage critical transportation infrastructure. A quote from a declassified 1952 OPC operational plan. The vulnerability of the Soviet logistics system lies in its total dependence on the Reichsbahn, a single well-placed charge on a curved section of track can deny movement for 72 hours. End quote. And I'm sure I just butchered that, but the name of the train or the tracks is Reichsbahn. I think that's Reichsbahn. All right, the agency established supply caches hidden in the forest containing specialized tools and explosives designed specifically to shear heavy iron rails. A quote from the memoirs of Frank Wisner, head of OPC. "We are not seeking to start a war, but to ensure that if the Soviets move, they move onto a track that simply isn't there anymore." End quote. The archives reveal the Soviet troop movement logs captured intelligence that allowed Apple agents to time their sabotage to coincide with the transport of heavy tank divisions toward the border. In the declassified release, documents confirm that rail sleds, small, silent, hand-pumped carts, were used by agents to move heavy explosives miles down the tracks at night without alerting Soviet patrols. A quote from a 1952 field report by Agent Max. "The guard at the Weimar Junction is predictable. He smokes at 0200 hours. This gives us 8 minutes to set the bridge charges and vanish back into the tree line." End quote. Declassified files show that the CIA developed coal bombs, explosives disguised as lumps of coal that were tossed into Soviet locomotive tenders by infiltrators working as stokers in the rail yards. The logs reveal that the CIA utilized signal flares dropped by low-flying C-47s to mark specific bridges for the sabotage teams when ground navigation failed in the fog. Internal memos from 1953 show the agency created rail spreading jacks, manual tools that could silently push rails apart just enough to derail a train without using a single ounce of noisy gunpowder. While the sabotage missions are documented, the most significant redactions in the release appear in the unidentified rolling stock annex and the subterranean liaison manifest. In fact, the absolute heaviest redactions were nearly 550 pages of the 1952 border crossing intelligence are blacked out, suggests the agency found something on the tracks that wasn't supposed to exist. Why are the logs of invisible convoys still completely dark? Get ready for the theory of the ghost train. Speculation suggests Operation Apple agents encountered invisible convoys that weren't on any map. The theory claims the redactions hide the unidentified rolling stock logs from 1952, alleging the agents discovered Soviet trains shielded by cloaking technology that moved silently at night, carrying cargo from an otherworldly origin, and the black bars mask the energy signature readings. What if the agents weren't alone? A dark rumor suggests the CIA used tunnel dwellers, a hidden residents living in the rail vents. The theory claims the redactions in the subterranean liaison manifest hide a program where the agency recruited Feral agents, people who had lived in the abandoned tunnel systems since World War II to act as a secret army beneath the feet of the Soviets, with the black bars masking the non-human diet logistics. Hidden behind the ink of the operator psychology section, some claim the CIA used sonic triggers in the rail clatter to hypnotize Soviet engineers. Looking at the blacked out station inventory logs, theorists argue that the agency discovered a trans-dimensional station in Berlin, and the black bars mask the exit point coordinates. The Mercury Rail theory posits that the redactions in certain reports hide the discovery of Soviet tracks that could change their own gauge, and the black bars mask the metal changing analysis. Some believe the personnel files redactions hide the use of mediums who could predict train schedules by touching the rails, with the black ink hiding the psychic accuracy rates. There are terrified whispers that the redactions in the cargo manifest hide the fact that one of the trains the CIA derailed was carrying a doomsday cultures, a biological weapon that the agency had to secretly burn in a fire zone, with the black bars masking the potential infection radius. Paranoid rumors suggest the track maintenance redactions cover up glow dye used to track Soviet trains from space, and the black ink hides the radiation poisoning statistics for the local villagers. The lead liner theory argues that the redactions in the cargo analysis section prove the Soviets were moving alien artifacts by rail, and the black bars mask the radiation contaminant protocols. Lastly, some whisper that the redactions hide the fact that the tracks were being used to build a great machine under Germany, and the black bars mask the activation code. Was Operation Apple a success? Tactically, it was a violent success. Throughout 1952 and 1953, dozens of Soviet supply lines were severed. The sabotage teams proved that the Red Army's logistics were fragile and prone to internal collapse. Strategically, it was a bloodbath. The Soviet response was brutal. Mass arrests and executions of rail workers effectively dismantled the networks by the mid-1950s. Operation Apple proved that while you can break a line of steel, the cost of doing so is often paid in human lives. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the broken track turned sabotage into a precision science. For instance, precision paramilitary insertion, the perfection of low-level insertion techniques for dropping agents into industrial zones. Stay-behind logistics, the development of deep caches that remained functional and undetected for years in hostile territory. Infrastructure vulnerability analysis, the creation of the critical point system for identifying the one bolt that holds a bridge together, and industrial psychological warfare, breakthroughs in tear sewing, forcing an enemy to spend more resources on guarding tracks than on moving troops. Operation Apple shows us that the agency views the world as a series of connections to be cut. As the files reveal, when the train stops, history shifts. Thanks for listening, and join us next time as we examine Operation Home Run. In the 1950s, the agency didn't just want to watch the Soviets, they wanted to poke them. Operation Home Run was the massive mission to fly B-47 bombers directly at the USSR to trigger their defense systems. We'll uncover the radar baits. We'll look at the frequency capture logs, the near-miss intercepts, and the moment the agency realized that to map a spider web, you have to fly right through it. Join us next time for the radar trap. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.